Hi everybody, welcome to another episode. And if you're watching this on video, you'll see it's a slightly different one. Normally we do these online, but this is face to face now. So, we've got some nice mics. We thought, why not? So, anyway, we've got a really interesting one that we've both agreed on together. I think it's the first time we've just got a joint decision. See what happens when you get together one-to-one, face-to-face, isn't it? And we want to talk to you about appraisals or performance reviews, as some people might call them. Now, I have some strong views on performance reviews and appraisals, but I don't know what Stephen's views on them are, so I'm going to hand over to him first. When I say appraisals, performance reviews, we're recording just about to go into October, so tis the season for mid-year reviews and things. What comes to mind?
Yeah, it's always an interesting topic, isn't it? And it's one of those ones where a lot of businesses tend to think about sitting down formally and talking to their people every year. And I always think that's really challenging, because I think if you leave it for a whole year to decide to sit down with someone and talk about their personal performance, talk about how they're doing, it's too long. So the first thing I would say is appraisals, reviews, whatever you want to call them, I think it needs to be built into the fabric of the organisation, and it needs to happen more frequently. Sometimes we get performance reviews and appraisals mixed up with pay increases. And the reason why a lot of companies do it yearly is because they tie them in together. And I actually think they're two separate things. Yes, someone's performance and how they're doing will directly link to whether or not we think they deserve a pay rise. But having it in the same discussion, sometimes for me, it masks the discussion. And by not having it in, you could have the appraisals more frequently. So you could have them every 6 months, or you could have them every 3 months. And for me, it's an opportunity for two people to have a really open and honest conversation with how you're feeling. And this is the other side to it, is sometimes I see these very scary looking appraisal forms that are like War and Peace. And, they almost take away the human-ized size of appraisals, because appraisals should be two people having a really honest and open conversation about my performance, how I'm doing. And the performance comes two ways. So it's how I think I'm performing and how my line manager believes I'm performing, and then it comes together. And, I think sometimes companies, and this is me being really honest, you guys now have worked some very large organizations. The job I do now, I work with large organizations, but I work with very small organizations as well, and medium enterprises. And one of the things that always comes across is the investment into this side. And what I really really want to do this podcast is because I want employers to really understand this is about investing in the process to make sure that you're investing in your people. And I often see appraisals as an afterthought. You get some people go, oh yeah, I haven't been appraised for a year and a half or for 2 years. And then you go, why isn't that happening? They go, oh, we just haven't had time. And it's where do you see this as on the level of importance, and how do you invest in it, in the process, in the systems, so that they happen regularly. And we talk about culture, and I know we've done podcasts on culture, but the culture piece directly links into appraisals, because the more you communicate and talk to your people, the easier it is for them to be part of a culture.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting you say that, because it takes me back a few years ago. I got called out on a video that I did around appraisals, and I think I think some businesses will feel that they're doing enough, and I would say you need to ask your staff if that's the case. We had we certainly didn't get to a point of agreement. They had their view, which remained, and I had my view, which remained, and I think mine was right, because theirs was coming from a position of leadership. Or being in charge. Anyway, I wouldn't necessarily call it leadership. It wasn't coming from the bottom up, so they weren't having their views confirmed. They were just telling me that this was great and that the staff were really happy. And I was like, you sound like the sort of person that people are going to say, yes, I'm really happy, because if I don't say I'm really happy, what could happen? And with appraisals, especially the end of year, but even if you're doing the mid-term ones, for me, they should have no surprises. They should almost be a tick box exercise, in my humble opinion, because it should just be going through all the things that you've discussed with everybody or with the individual throughout the course of the year. Through regular one-to-ones. Those one-to-ones don't need to be long, but they do need to happen. You need to know that you're on target. These people need to know what's expected of them, what's, moving from expectations to agreements. So then when you come to that end of year, pay review, appraisal, performance review, whatever you want to call it, you don't suddenly come out with something new that's news to them, or they don't suddenly, they're unsure whether they're going to get their pay rise or bonus or whatever the end goal is, they should absolutely know that from month one of that year, every way through. Session after session, one-to-one after one-to-one, whether they're on target, so there are no surprises and they have a chance to do something about it. Whereas I'm coming across people who, like you say, haven't had an appraisal and they don't really know where their career progression's going. That doesn't seem fair. I'm having some people whose money for the next year is determined on that whole year, but they don't know until they've been through the appraisal system. I've even been in a company many years ago, to be fair, where despite the success that everybody was having, far too many people achieved a certain level.
Yeah.
So they had to cut back on the bonuses. And that only happens if you don't monitor what everybody's doing. Now, that was an honest mistake. It was still a crap mistake. They still had too many staff doing too well, and under their bonus structure meant that they couldn't afford to pay it. Now, what damage do you think that's done? 11 months of hard graft, all knowing you're on track for your pay review, and then suddenly we have to scale back on it because everybody's done too well, or maybe the parameters were too easy. I don't know what you would look at it, but that's outrageous, and that did so much damage. They were never coming back from that because staff they do think, well, F you, if I've worked really hard, you made it very clear, and you've basically broken the agreement that we started off on the top of the year. So for me, I just think it's such a dangerous area to not do it and do it properly, and therefore if you are doing it, to do it wrong. I don't understand. And I thought your point at the beginning is really valuable, because you might not pay huge amounts of money into this, but the amount of time that's being invested by your staff for it, that if you actually did a cost analysis, I bet you that would be pretty high. The amount of time spent on the appraisals, booking the appraisals, depending on the size of the company, filling in the forms when you say they're a mammoth form, maybe having 2 appraisals per year, 6 monthly and end of year. I bet if you add that up, that is coming into many thousands of pounds that you could have been seeing better productivity from. So, it's not the most exciting topic that we've ever had, but I was saying to Stephen beforehand, at the time we record this, end of September, if people are doing mid-year reviews, they tend to often fall around this sort of time. So we would just love people to have a think about how are their appraisals going? What are you does this sound similar to yours? What else do you think when we talk about appraisals, one-to-ones and stuff? What else comes to mind?
For me as well, you touched on the point there around there should be no surprises. So I guess it's about investing in the time, as you said, but it's almost like the appraisal is actually the end bit, and there's loads of work that needs to be done beforehand, and that's around knowing your people, spending time with them, so that actually when you get to the appraisal, it's almost, I don't want to use a formality, but it's smooth because the work has gone in beforehand. Yeah. And one of the questions I often ask business owners is, how much time do you spend with your people? Yeah. And the first answer generally is, yeah, quite a lot. And then they go, no, how much time? Let's write it down. Let's write it down by minute. How much time do you spend with your people? And I put this out there to everybody that's listening and watching. The poor performers in your team will be the ones that you spend the least amount of time with. Yeah. And it always comes back that way. And why that is because subconsciously, if someone's not performing very well, what we do is we give them a wide berth. Yeah. So we spend less time with them because they might not make us feel right. They might not be as motivated. They might not be hitting the objectives that you've set. So you actually spend less time with them. Yeah. So sometimes there is a correlation with the poor performers versus the time that you spend with them. So sometimes it's about what do you spend your time doing and how much time do you spend with those individuals. And I think that happens way, 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 way down the line before the appraisal happens. Mm-hmm. And that's about really setting out your stall to say, my impact on my people is this. So that means that's where my time needs to be. And I often talk about this in terms of management, because I think sometimes when you get into these management positions, you forget that it's no longer about you, and it's about what you get others to do. You are not important anymore. You are actually there to support and be in a position, a fallback position, where you can have those conversations, have those one-to-ones, have those meaning conversations around, direction and focus and so forth and so forth. Your job actually isn't to do stuff for yourself. It's to do stuff that enables others to do stuff for the business.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I talk quite a lot about when I'm mentoring and coaching within organisations, because it always seems to be an issue. The other thing I want to sort of address as well with appraisals: stop having your appraisals in dark rooms with no daylight, with the chairs not positioned in the right way, with no water, with no comfort. Sometimes the environment that you choose to do the appraisal in is absolutely so important as well. And I sometimes smile that level of detail hasn't been thought about beforehand. You're expecting this person to be open, you're expecting this person to be honest, you're expecting this person to feel warm, you're expecting this person to really talk about some of the inner feelings which come out when you're having an appraisal. But yet the surroundings that you're having the appraisal in isn't right. Also, having your phone on, in which is another thing that I've seen where, you're not then concentrating or making sure it's blocked out of your diary so you're not interrupted at any point. All these things are really crucial things for appraisal, so that the appraisal goes well, because there's an investment in the appraisal and investment in that time.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. I just want to pick up the point before I forget it about the dark room. I think I flip it around as well and see too many people will take you to like the coffee shop. And these people might want to have an honest conversation. I'm not necessarily talking about the appraisals. This could be the one-to-ones that hopefully you are already having or will start having more regularly with these people. But they want to talk about something maybe a bit meaty, a bit personal. Coffee shop isn't the place, but it seems like a cool, trendy thing to do. Get out of the office, go to the coffee shop, or go into, if you're one of these companies that's lucky enough to have a lovely open plan area. Again, no, not there. There needs to be at least agreement about where you go, and that person needs to feel that they can talk. In a coffee shop where anybody could be there and there's lots of noise, that isn't going to be the one. And in the office where they might need to have a word about something or someone, that's not it either. So absolutely the environment is key. Now at certain times, if you're just having, if you've already agreed with them and you've got a great relationship, fine. I'm not saying don't go to a coffee shop, but let's be clear that that's the appropriate environment for the member of staff or the person you're meeting with. In all walks of life, I mean, this goes beyond appraisals. If you're meeting potential prospects and stuff, think about where that is. You're going to have to ask personal questions of them, of whatever market you're in. Maybe a public place isn't the place to do it. But equally, a dark and dingy room in the basement isn't the place either, is it? So, there's a lot more to think about. And I think it's just, I'm going to say, it's just laziness, really, which possibly falls into that we've always done it that way. And neither of those things are okay. And it's certainly not then okay to think about poor performance coming from somebody as their fault. If you're not doing simple things like this, along with other bits and pieces, if you're not speaking to them on a regular basis, having conversations with them, meetings in insensible environments, and they're performing poorly, then that is on you, not them. Now, they might not be competent enough at the end of the day, but if you're not doing the basics right, then it stops with you first. They're not even being given a chance to sort of prove themselves. So for me, I look at the reason that we bring up appraisals, performance reviews, is that they could do so much good. Handled in the right way, they can be an incredibly positive experience. And companies that do it well know already, and they could certainly allude to this, but I see far too many people not paying enough attention to it or believing that they're doing it well, when I could absolutely, and that person 3 years, 4 years ago, I still tell you, you're doing it wrong. You're not doing it in a way that's helping you, no matter how much you may want to scream. And you'll probably end up watching this video and you'll probably come back and challenge me, as you know who you are. But I don't care, because it doesn't change. It doesn't change. Nothing I've seen in the years since we spoke has changed. This is not the way. You don't do it from top down. Ask people, and I suppose that's another thing. We're saying certain things, but ask your people how they want to be communicated with, how they would like to meet, what would work for them. So I think that's it off my chest. Have you got any sort of final points you want to make?
I mean, it was always something that was talked about with me in the late 80s, and that is the appraisal process is a two-way process. I think in some organisations it's very much a top-down, and it's about giving information, and actually appraisal should be about a two-way street. It should be about giving and receiving information on both sides. And for me, in the world that we live in now, where we're trying to get the best people, where there is not enough people to deliver the jobs, the reality is, making sure that this is a fundamental part of your business has actually never been more crucial and more important, and making sure that it's a two-way process, because what you'll find now is people will actually have an expectation of you, and they'll be sat in that appraisal going, well, I want to know whether this is a company I want to work for the next year or not, based on what their company objectives are, based on what the company's sort of long-term vision might be, based on how you're going to recruit over the next year, based on your pricing offer. So people are actually, their expectations now are far greater. So it's no longer the employer that's sat there going, this appraisal is to for me to allow you to continue working here. It's actually the employee is thinking, right, this is a business I want to be part of for the next year. So I think the pendulum is definitely starting to swing the other way. And I do think this is an area where you've got to invest in it. You've got to have a slick process. If the process is not right, I think it falls down. And also you need to have the right tools, so that's the right documentation, so that it goes smoothly as well. So that would be my bit. Hopefully we haven't come across as review killers, but you can tell from our conversations that we think it's really, really crucial, and never been more crucial than now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a perfect way to finish. I think you could have gotten away with stuff in the past, and you definitely can't now. So thanks. So I hope you've enjoyed that one. As always, feel free to reach out and chat with us. You may see more in this funky little room if you're watching it on video. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at the next episode.
Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.